Welcome to more of my British Championship coverage, and now I'm going to focus for this round on another event within the event, because of course you've got the main British Championship, but you've also got the under 18, you've got the under 21, you've also got the Women's Championship. And for this event, Ivanka Huska wasn't playing for the first time in about 52 years. Well, not that many of course, but quite a few years, because she was in somewhere in South America, I think. And of course she always wins the women's one, because she's usually the highest rated woman by at least 300 points, because she is an IM. But she wasn't playing this year, so that gave another woman the chance to win the prize. And the top seed for this was WFM Sarah Hegarty, with a rating of 2,124 and 190 on the ECF, I think. And she also plays in my local league, sort of, and she's very nice, so I wanted to win. And Bogdan was her opponent, the Grandmaster from Croatia, who plays like a million tournaments every year, and has a habit, and I like writing these Facebook rants about engines, which always bring a smile to my face, and liking his own statuses and comments, Ian Lamb style. And he also has a habit of, with black, agreeing draws in like 10 moves, even against like 2,100s, 2,200s, but with white he usually tries his best to win. And time to see the game anyway. So B unit opened with, that's his nickname, that B unit, with D4. Sarah responded with D5, and now we get a triangle system, which leads to stuff like the note boom and the Marshall gambits. That's if white plays knight c3. But now bishop g5 was played for the first time in the series. We'll see bishop g5, bishop d7, bishop e7, queen e7, e3. So B unit is going to set up a very solid position and try and grind it, which is a good thing, because if you look through Sarah's game, she's a very aggressive player. So it's maybe good to play these positional games. Knight f6 was chose, knight c3, knight bd7, and now c takes d5, e takes d5. We have a transposition to the Queen's Gambit exchange variation. Now bishop d3, castles, queen c2, rook e8. So now we're going to see some positional themes. Black just plays rook e8 because she wants to make use of her outpost on e4 potentially, and reroute the knight round to f8 to square on the king's side. And white wants to keep his black's c8 bishop bad and aim to a minority attack on the queen's side, which I've explained in other videos with rook b1, b4, b5, and make the c6 pawn weak. And if black ever plays c5, then the d5 pawn becomes isolated after exchanges. So either way, there's going to be a weakness, and black has to try and find enough counterplay to compensate for this. In overall, the position is a slight plus for white. Castles, h6. The problem is this position is very easy to play for an experienced grandmaster. Rook ab1. Now a-fire. Not too sure about this move, it does seem to weaken some squares. Maybe knight f8 is a better move. I can still play b4, but actually no, that's not good actually. First you play h3 to stop bishop g4, otherwise the bishop get rid of a bad bishop or something, and then after, well, knight g6 actually can't be played in this position. So I have to say, I don't know, knight e6 instead, then b4 then. So I think a5 is designed to stop b4, but the problem is it can be played anyway, and plus you don't have to always do that plan, you can like change your plan. And in fact, now B unit sees another plan, knight d2. It's going to get his knight to the c5 square. Queen d6 was chosen. Maybe knight g4 cheapos. In fact, rook after rook fc1, knight g4 was played. Knight f1 was played, because as Larson said, when the knight is on a bishop square, there will be no mate. And now knight f8 is played, so both sides put the knights on bishop squares. And you see black carrying out the plan which I described earlier. And of course B unit has to be a bit careful, because if the knights get menacing, then and maybe a rook swing across, it could get an attack. But now knight a4 is played, heading for the b6 and c5 squares. Knight d7 is played to stop that. So actually, if we go back, this must be an inaccuracy if knight a4 is strong, because going back to d7 is just wasted the tempo, which is chess tempos are very important in chess games usually. a3, preparing to play b4 anyway. b5 to kick the knight, which comes into c5. And now knight b6 is played, which seems a bit dodgy because it's like letting this knight sit there. When of course the point is, if the knight is taken, and after queen takes c5, white does have an enduring edge due to the pressure on the c6 point, and the queen's probably likely to take an early bath. And now this pressure is very nasty. The bishop has to protect it, but and against the grandmaster, this is not a position which you want. So knight b6 is an attempt to complicate it by keeping pieces on. The problem is that white can always play b3 to stop this use of the c4 square, which is black's main asset potentially. But the c5 square can't be protected, which is why white has a small but enduring advantage in this position. b3 is played. Rook a7, trying to get the rook to a more active location. a4, which provokes b4. And now the queen side is becoming more fixed, and this knight c5 is looking very deadly. And now bishop h7 check. And after the game, actually, I saw Bogdan analysing on his computer, who was doing his typical computer say this, computer say decided better for white. And I asked him what the point of this move was actually, because I thought it was just a pointless check, being the weak player I am. Why not just play bishop f5 immediately? But he said the point is to get the king further away from the centre for the endgame, because there's likely to be an endgame in this position with if save the knight moves and then queen c5. So part of being a strong player was to be able to plan ahead and see like scenarios like several moves ahead. And I sadly did not have that skill yet, probably never will. So after king h8, bishop f5. Because the more minor pieces come off, the more superior white's c5 knight will be. So now the bishop swap is justified. G6 was played, so the bishops come off. I think white could also consider to actually taking this knight off instead, because this bishop is pretty useless, because it's all these c6 and d5 pawns on the same colour as it. But I think this is simpler. h3 is played to put the knight back to a bad square. See, it's just not a very nice position to play if you're black. White's just got simple plans of sticking his knights in on the c5 and e5 squares, and black has no attacking chances, which you probably hope for at the start of the game. Knight d2 is played. So the plan of course of knight f3, knight e5 is looking pretty strong. Rook e7, queen d3, queen c7. Black can only wait. The rooks now get doubled as the slow torture. Now this just challenges the knight, but white always has another knight you can use. Rook bc1, queen b6, and now that is actually an inaccuracy of white's next move. But this is looking bad. Like if black takes, then we always take with the rook, so we need to keep frontal pressure on the c6 pawn. And if queen b6 in this position, okay, the move which was very strong for b unit in the game can't be played. But now with the queen c2, there is a plan of playing knight f3, knight e5, and then there's 4 pieces bullying this pawn. So now rook e6 has to be played, and now knight f3. And in fact, this pawn looks like a goner. Say this, then knight e5, queen a6. So if knight takes c6, then knight e4 is actually very strong. So f3 is played first to stop that resource, and also prepare pawns for e4. And even if the pawn's never taken, this is just a horrendous position to play with black. After queen b6, queen a6 was played. Now the queen's come off. Rook e6 to protect the pawn, and now knight c5. This is just very beautiful positional chess by white, and actually very simple looking chess, because these grandmasters, they make it look so easy, but when I come to play the game I just can't play it. And now she finally decides to get rid of the knight. to rook takes c5. However, a pawn's dropping off because the a5 and c6 pawns cannot be protected simultaneously. So chooses that one to drop. Now white's converted these positional advantages into a pawn. So that's the point. That's a lot of grandmasters win games. They create weaknesses, they restrain and blockade them, and then destroy them, and then win with the extra pawn or two in the endgame. That's how like Kramnik's become like 2800. King G7, F3, preparing E4 to get a central pass pawn. G5. Now the king matches in because you want to use your king in the endgame. I can't emphasise how much to you that how important the king is in the ending. H5, E4, takes, G4, E5, knight moves, knight E4, knight F4, knight D6, and now knight E6 is played, which more resistance could have been offered by actually walking the king into discovery for some reason. But then again, you've still got knight takes f7 check, king takes f7, rook f6 checks. That's still pretty hopeless. Knight e6 was played instead. King comes in, rook h8, d5, knight d8, and now we have a check. The king goes back, and the final move of the game is, pause the video if you want to have a go at this. It's quite simple. Find the winning move. The winning move is rook c8. And black resigns because the only move to protect the knight is king e8. And then we have rook c7 with nasties like knight d6 check next. Save rook h1. We have check, king f8, rook d7, and the knight is actually completely trapped. So black's dropping the piece either way. So I think she was very unlucky then to run into being into when he's playing like a 2600 plus, which I think is probably a 2600, but he just takes too many quick draws. So his rating's now 2480, 2489 at the time of the game. ECF's probably about 250. So yeah, that's showing how a lot of grandmasters win games, and I thought it was quite an instructive game. And I also quite enjoyed looking at this game because it's like shows you how to play good positional chess, which is what a lot of players at my level, including me, are pretty bad at. Well, I'm bad at tactical chess as well, but this is of course very difficult to play these positions. So it's a very instructive game, and this won't be the last you see of either of them because they're of course both fighting for their respective titles of the championship and the women's championship. And I hope you enjoyed this game, and please leave in the comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.